Hi, good evening, everyone. We have Vidyotima with us today to help us understand her journey, the crests and the troughs which she faced during the preparation. Since we interacting, the audience is CAT 23 students. I'll get started with a very brief introduction and take 5 minutes to set the tone for the session, so rather set the foundation for the session. I'm Deepak Tukral. Been close to 18 years since I've been associated. Rather, I don't even remember what exactly number of years. It's somewhere between 18 and 20 or 15. So, we lost count. It's such a wonderful organization, Hitbullseye, that everyone automatically, when you associate with so many years, you end up losing count. But I'm Deepak Tukral. I did my MBA from UBS Chandigarh. I was an economics honors student. Uh, I economics After economics honors, I did my post graduation in economics. Before I also became a quant faculty with Hitbullseye and started teaching there. And the association since then always continues. So, we welcome all our CAT 23 students to hear Vidyotima explain what happened, how it happened, what all did she do, what right did she do, what right did she not do, what was wrong in her preparation. So she'll help us understand. But before we, before we move on to understand it from her, I'll take a few more minutes and I'd like to add, there are a couple of things which we've always noticed in all the students who've been able to get through good institutes. Is the first thing is that they study as if there's no tomorrow. Okay. So what do I mean by that? It's never about this CAT which I'm preparing for, CAT 23 I'm preparing for, or maybe I'll try for CAT 24. No, that's not the approach that you need to have. All energies need to go in preparing for CAT 23. We'll counsel you towards the end whether you actually need to take a reattempt or you should pick up a B school. But believe me, students who keep preparing with their final goal in mind are able to crack the paper. That's one. Second, we found that all the students who are able to get through good institutes are actually humble. हाँ, उसके बाद अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट्स क्रैक करने के बाद उनको ऐसे लगता है कि they've really become larger than life, they've become big, which is very heartening. बहुत खुशी होती है. तो but they were all humble. Third, they, for their problems, they were ready to voice out their problems to the faculty and take guidance from the faculty and the front office at Hitbullseye. And we were able to course correct on what needs to be done, what does not, what should be avoided, and put them on the right path. Fourth, they also surrounded themselves with friends who were also preparing for this paper. So obviously, you don't want to interact, or you want to have a limited interaction with a person who's preparing for something else, because he's going to market what he's doing, okay, or feel good about what he's doing. A person who's already preparing for an MBA entrance examination is going to obviously talk 90% of your talks, or 60-70% of your talks are going to revolve around it. So that's very important, that you get your surroundings right. Fifth, and not the last, and I'm sure Vidyotima, I'll request her to highlight this thing when she's speaking to us, is that not everything went right. बाद में सब कुछ ऐसे लगता है कि सब कुछ ही ठीक हुआ था, बट ऐसा नहीं होता. मॉक कैट्स में परसेंटाइल्स कम आती हैं, अच्छी भी आती हैं, बुरी भी आती हैं. There's always a younger brother or sister troubling you. There's always something happening in the family which is always troubling you and losing your cool. But the person who cracks, or the student who cracks the paper, is the one who takes everything along and says, life is not perfect. Hang on, I need to take everything along with me. Here, I also like to give you a very unique experience which happened when I was preparing for CAT, and then when I was finally taking my CAT paper, was that I was writing this paper. It used to be a paper-based examination at that time. So when I was writing the paper, I was in MCM DAV. So, and I'm 6 feet. So the first thing is I could never sit properly. Second, so if you remember, बीच में चाय और वो समोसा पक्का आता है. तो इस बार मिरांडा आया और समोसा आया. So the lady invigilator who was there in my examination said, भैया ये समोसा तो ठंडा है. तो मेरे को लगा मैं यहाँ पे तल रहा हूँ, तुम समोसे तलने की बात कर लो. So obviously I could not have said that, but I felt inside. Then she said, भैया ये मेरे को ना वो ऑरेंज वाला नहीं चाहिए, मेरे को ये लेमन वाला चाहिए. मैंने बोला ये क्या हो रहा है? ठीक है, तो you know, such things which disturb you. And I look back 20 years now and I say that, no, not 20, 15 years now, and I say that, hang on, yaar, ye to, you know, it was such a funny experience. But all these things happen. However, you know, we took the paper long back. And Vidyotima has just taken it, you know, recently. She's cracked a good college. So over to you, Vidyotima. Before they say that, Deepak Tutal, you get out. You know, Vidyotima is what they want to listen to. They've been waiting for. For the first few minutes, 20, 25, 30 minutes, whatever you're comfortable, we really like to understand from you, what did you do? What went wrong? How did you prepare? All whatever you want to speak, whatever you miss out, you ask the questions, and I welcome all the students to put down their questions in the YouTube channel where you're seeing this live. I am also viewing it. I will pick up your questions and ask but not in the order in which you are asking, but you know, wherever it's relevant. So we'll stop her and ask her. But Vidyotima, welcome. Heartiest congratulations. And please start with telling us the meaning of your name. Yes.
Yes. Right, sir. Yes, a lot of people ask that question actually. So yes, it's there in the name itself, you know, Vidyotima, Vidya mein Uttam, so good in studies. Though it wasn't true during the school times, but but life is full of irony. So thank you so much, Deepak sir, for that introduction, of course. And thank you for inviting me here.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Thank you.
Right. So, speak your heart out.
Sure, sir.
And there's nothing, see, what I really want students to understand here is that, you know, you want one amongst them. Yes, that's why you've been invited on this platform. You've been preferred over other students because, you know, at times students think differently after they've cracked the paper. No, we want to really understand. You've just done it. So how did you do it? What did you do? How did you study? Please, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So firstly, this time there were no samosas in paper, unfortunately. So I would start off with a little bit of background about myself. So I am from non-engineering background. So I think if there was a tagline for my story, it would be that a person who was so afraid of math, they ended up in IIT. Like, it's the irony of life. How that happened, another story. So I think I'll start from the 8th class itself. So I had always been very weak at maths. So Cond is a whole section in CAT. So I believe this is very relevant to the story. So 8th, 9th, 10th somehow passed through. And as soon as I got the first opportunity to drop it, I did. So 11th was medical. And after that, I did my hospitality, BSc in hospitality and hotel administration. So I'm from hotel management. Now, how from medical I went there, that is another long story reserved for another day. So, okay. Yes. So after this, for 2 years, I worked with a hotel, Lemon Tree. There I worked in the capacity of assistant manager for food and beverage services. So I'll just touch up briefly on what my work was there. So, within the hotel, when you go to stay, so all the places, anywhere where you can, eat food or get drinks inside the hotel. So everything, all of those areas come within our ambit in our department. So I was taking care of a team of around 20 people. And we were also part of taking care of like the marketing of the restaurants, the bars, to ensure, enough people are coming in, enough guests are customers are coming in. That is very crucial. Of course, every company wants to make profits. So that is how I realized that I really enjoyed the marketing part. And I believed that I could maybe make a career out of that. So that is how began the journey of thinking about MBA. That, okay, fine, maybe though my background is not that. And of course, in every non-engineering person, there's this fear in the back of their mind that how will we eventually, crack it? Like, how will we go about regarding maths, or maybe, for some people, the fear might be for English. There are unlimited combinations, of course. So I left my job after 2 years, somewhere in August 2020. And I started my preparation exactly in December 2 years back, about 2020. And I joined Hitbullseye. So I joined with the referral of my batchmate. He had prepared throughout the year with Hitbullseye. So in fact, he has had some really good words for the institute. And one thing that was selling point for me specifically was that Hitbullseye really covers the basics. And that was something that I really needed, because I personally knew myself and the areas where I needed to work. Now, I also believe it's very important, we stress on the point that CAT is a lot about, self-awareness. You have to know yourself to really be able to, I would say, go about the preparation. Because MBA preparation, a lot of time, what we do as students is we go about it not in the exact right way. It becomes very complicated. We are thinking, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that. Thousands of things are going on in our heads. And everything becomes so complicated, we eventually lose the sight of the actual goal. Because I myself, like, I wasn't working when I was preparing for CAT. So I was at home 24/7. So for a student like me, it was very necessary that I created a routine for myself, woke up at a particular time, did certain particular things for preparation. And that is how it went about for the entire year. And I gave my I gave all the major exams, in fact, CAT, IFT, ZAT, SNAP, majority of them in 2021, finished all of them somewhere in around January. And then after that, the selection processes started for various colleges, which I was a part of. And then eventually this year, I began my journey with IIT Jodhpur's business school, School of Management and Entrepreneurship. So this was like the basic timeline. Now, coming on how exactly, like, some common things that really helped me with the preparation and some major goof ups that I believe I personally did. Because on internet, there's a lot of material about, things to do. But there's nothing specifically that things not to do, or this is what will happen, might happen with you, that might goof up your preparation or make you feel that you're just lagging behind. So, beginning from, I think, three major points that I'll cover in this is, like, of course, first is get your basics clear. That is very important. And get it out of the way as quickly as you can. So, because the thing is, the more time you spend in basics, it's like a progression. The journey goes on in a continuum. Start with something basic, simple, and you go to more complex things. And that is how it goes on, like, all the sections. So get it done, get it out of the way, and then go over to the difficult part. Because I know, for majority of the students, that is like out of their comfort zones. For me too, it was. And I think maths specifically, it was a problem for me in quantitative ability, because the easy questions I somehow finally managed. So our classes started in December with Hitbullseye, and they gave a lot of certain introductory sessions were also there to how to go about it. Then classes started, and they ended also in a pretty good time to give you a lot of time to prepare by yourself. However, the thing is that, so the basics were covered pretty quickly, and as they really should be, in fact. So right after that, you have to go towards the difficult part. Now, this was the thing that I was not able to convert as such to, I somehow was stuck in my comfort zone in quant, which happens to a lot of students in their weak areas. That is something that you should definitely try to avoid. So apart from this, the second point, that is, there is mock cats. Now, this is a very controversial topic, because see, or your teachers will say it, in fact, thousands of times. My teachers told it to me thousands of times, that do not skip your mocks. Mocks are very important. They are very important because they give you a starting point. They will tell you, okay, so in my first mock, I hardly scored around 40 percentile, sir. And I wasn't like, okay, I wasn't that shocked, because I knew, okay, fine. In maths, I know how weak I am. DILR, I was just average. English, I was good at. I think 40% came from that itself. So it gave me a starting point. Now, to a person, you might also score 85 percentile, right? For both of these people, someone like me and someone like that person who is already at an 85% of a level, the preparation journey would be pretty different. And that self-awareness, now again, it will come if you give the mock on time. In fact, I had a lot of my classmates at that time who were preparing, and they kind of tried to push giving the mocks by a couple of months. They did eventually, but they shifted it, a couple of months. Like, okay, fine, at least we will finish 75% of syllabus, then we'll give. It's okay. Right now, it's just at the beginning. Now, the thing is that I would love for all of you to really, really get it into your minds that, CAT is not an academic test. It's an aptitude test. That differentiation is very important to understand. Again, as I said, you need to uncomplicate things. Now, in aptitude test, the syllabus is never going to get over. It's not like you cover certain chapters or this much amount or this many questions and then you're done, you're good to go. That will never happen. The syllabus is unlimited. So the majority thing that you can do is that you get as accustomed to the questions, as familiar to as many questions as you can, so that you have covered as much as you can. So that in paper, there's, the percentage of the questions that you see that are new is less. That is what we all hope for when we are preparing. And that is what I also hope for. So apart from mocks and apart from basics, I would say practice a lot as much as you can. Practicing is very important. Again, something I missed in math as such. My friends, in fact, I did used to study with my friends as well, who used to teach me math. And I think I weakened him in math instead of him strengthening me in math.
Doesn't happen like that, but I'm sure you learn a lot by being with right people. Yes. Point number 4, I think, which I said, third or fourth, which I said.
Yes, but it is, of course, it proves like, it provides a lot of support to you when you're preparing with someone. My brother was also giving CAT, so that was also, it was really nice that you had people around you who had a similar goal. So you could discuss about that, we could talk about that. So that was like basic tips that I followed. And apart from that, if I'll come to like section wise part. So as I said, like in English, I was good to go from the beginning itself. So I wasn't as worried about that. Now, again, the problem was that when you are good to go in one subject, you tend to spend more time in that subject. More time throughout the preparation you are, because that's a comfort zone. So you'll try to stay in that. Is human nature. And you'll prepare for it a lot. Of course, then after that, you have to push yourself to, okay, fine, let's do other things also. So for English, how I went about is was, of course, there's the major part is reading comprehension. I believe it's very important that you do not focus on the part that is just reading. Like comprehension is very important. You have to understand what's written, right? Speed is not everything. This is something that was told to me by my teacher in the beginning itself, right in the beginning of the preparation, that please understand what you're reading. You have to, get your focus right. Like your comprehension should be on point, because the questions that will come, they're not going to be direct. They're going to be something that you have to read in between the lines. So I used
Yes.
Exactly. So I used to read like every day as much material as you could get. That wasn't as much of a problem because I love reading. And I used to do new words every day, maybe 3 to 10, ranging from in between them. Sometimes I used to get them from the newspapers or sometimes from certain books. So that is how I went about English. That was mainly it. And mocks and sectionals was a huge part of that. Then coming to DILR. For that, I would say the basics, of course, I did in the starting months, I tried to do the basics, finish those. Then after that, try to practice as many sets as I could. So I think the best, strategy would be to start from something very basic, very simple, not try to jump to something very complex, because then that discourages you and you try to avoid the subject completely. That is again a major drawback for you.
Right.
Right, sir. And I believe last coming to cons. So the classes of Hitbullseye were pretty good because they covered the basics, everything in basics. So I actually saw the recorded lectures also thrice, made vigorous notes from them. Once that was done, I tried to go towards the complex questions. Wasn't very successful. I'll be very honest and candid about this. But that is how basically you should go. Like try to practice more and more maths questions, as many as you can, because maths is all about practice, of course. And apart from this, I believe I've covered basically how I prepared for sections. And other than that, so coming to the examination day, how the experience was about that, I'll just briefly shed some light on that also.
Yes.
Right. So in November, basically, when you have reached November, in fact, when November starts, you're in a mindset said that, okay, now it's like the closing time, the closing time of a store. Now you're finishing up. Now you can't start new tasks or new topics. And you shouldn't, in fact, because it will make everything more complicated again. So I started revising. I gave, I think, 2 or 3 mocks in that month. Then exactly, I think a day before, I just had like the notes and everything was ready. Something, very basic that I just want to go over once. Hardly took me an hour or two of that. So I did that, followed my routine to the T, and slept on time, took 8 hours of sleep, I would say. And then thankfully, my slot was the last slot, the third slot. So I took a nap also on the CAT day. And after that, I drove to the exam center. Now, I think one thing that really worked for me on the examination day was that I was very calm, eerily calm. In fact, it was, I sometimes when I look back, I feel I do not understand why that calmness was there to that level. To some level, I can understand. And to some level, I believe was because my strategies were pretty much in place. I was like, okay, अब कर लिया जो करना है, अब इसके आगे कुछ कर नहीं सकते, चिंता करने का फायदा नहीं है, no use of worrying. So gave the exam, after the exam kind of knew like what all was going to, what the result was going to be, kind of had an idea. And I believe that was it. Coming to the strategy of the exam that I personally used. Now, the strategy is something you come upon when you give a lot of mocks. And you have to, it's like an trial and error method. You have to use several techniques. Then you get to the right one. That, okay, this is working for me. This I can use in the exam time. So that is what I did for English, for verbal ability. That was the first section for us, sir. So in that, what I did was went through the entire section. I already knew that the first 10 minutes, I'll just select the first 5 minutes. In fact, I will just select the comprehension that I would like to do and note it down in sequence. Did that, then after that, went to the miscellaneous questions that are usually there, the parajumbles and all. Attempted those for the first 10 to 15 minutes. It was a fixed time that I had. I was not going to go over it. After having done that, did the comprehension, last 5 minutes I had saved to go over the questions, something that I had doubt. And that was how verbal I attempted. And then after that went on to DILR. Now that is something, see, I knew I was average at. Again, self-awareness comes in here. So I did not have a specific goal in my mind that I want to do 2 sets or 3 sets, in fact. I just knew one thing, that I'll pick my sets correctly in the starting. And then I'll go about attempting. Even if it's 1 set, it should be like I should correctly answer majority of the questions from that set. Again, as CAT is all about accuracy, all your mentors will always tell you. So during that part, I believe it's very crucial. It's even more crucial, than attempting the sets, that you choose the right set. Because in the first 15 minutes, for example, in the first 10 minutes you spend in choosing the sets, then you start attempting those sets. And then 15 minutes you'll probably spend on 1 set. And if you realize that that set is wrong, and you're not able to just solve that, then you have lost very important, crucial 15 minutes of your time. And
Yes,
it was
and the pressure builds up, and there's a tremendous pressure. Yes.
Exactly, sir.
Yes.
And already time is so less, and then you are just like, oh God, I can't. And someone probably has done 1 set in that amount of time and has already moved to the other one. So it's very crucial that you know which set to choose. And for maths, a very simple strategy that did well would have worked if I had a bit more practice. So that was I bifurcated the questions, easy, medium, and hard, and try to attempt those in that form. So that was basically it, I believe, about my journey. So just in the end, I would say that, try to uncomplicate things as much as possible. Very necessary.
Take a couple of minutes for your interview preparation as well. I really want students who are just starting, or how it happens is, Vidyotima, there'll be thousands of students who'll be listening to you, if not today, subsequently. Right. So they want a holistic coverage. What did you do for interviews? We like to know that as well. Yes. Okay. So once your CAT was over, did you prepare for other examinations?
So yes, actually, so after CAT, so I kind of knew that I might not have done that well in maths. So my focus was on giving SNAP exam, and thankfully I performed well in maths there. So that went really well. But so yeah, I was preparing for SNAP till January. In fact, I gave the first attempt and the third attempt. And somewhere by the end of January, we were done with all of our exams. All majority exams that I gave, they were done. So after that began the preparation for the interviews, the rounds. So in Hitbullseye, in fact, I had this, we had this, prospects of where you can actually schedule the interviews, the mock interviews, and also participate in group discussions and all of those things. So that also helped a lot. Apart from that, since the starting itself, in fact, in December 2020, I made it a habit to read the newspaper every day. I continued it throughout the year. So in a way, of course, you can't remember things, and I did not remember anything, whatever I had read. But it gave me a confidence that my GK, my general knowledge, won't be that bad if some question arises. So one was that, of course, I did brush up on basic questions for interviews. There are, of course, you will always find basic questions like what is your weakness, what is your strength, why MBA. Then, a lot of questions are there from your background itself, like how do you, like why you dropped that job, or if there's anything even in your, sometimes your resume might be asked, not always, of course, because it's a, of course, an interview for college, so they did not really ask for that. And group discussions are of course there, so for that you can try certain things on your own also, like I did maybe speaking out loud by like myself also as well, so that also helped a little. This was just the basic preparation that I did for interviews. And
Right.
all colleges have different processes, of course. So, like Micah had a lot of rounds. That was the only college that did offline rounds that year. Rest all were online. And so all had different, and some had group, discussion, some had group quiz. All like minute things were different. Rest interview was in there, all of those.
Okay. So you've, one thing I missed, but you said that very clearly, and I'd like to repeat that, is what is also important is how calm are you while taking the paper. You might have a talent of Virat Kohli, but even Virat Kohli gets stressed. Yes, and when he gets stressed, he has many years of going without scoring a century. Then he's not justifying his talent, right? Which the complete audience wants him to. But a person who's calm can have maybe a 10% less talent than a Kohli, will be much more successful, right? At least for the paper. Rest, I'm no judge to judge cricketers, but that's how it is. You have to be very calm. Second thing which immediately arises, and I'll we'll soon be starting a question and answer session, so I'll request everyone to put in their questions, remembering that every preparation is different for every person. As she said, somewhere she indicated that it's very different. What are you good at, what are you bad at? But I like to highlight here is one of the things is that what's a strength and a weakness? A strength and a weakness is not something that you love or you don't love. Okay, strength is something that knowing that if I cannot play which short ball I have to play and which short pitched ball I have to leave. That's when you know that becomes your strength. So even when Vidyotima knew that she's not that comfortable with mathematics or quant, I should rather put it quant, she ended up scoring well in her snap examination. Am I right, Vidyotima? That's what you said?
Right.
Why did she end up scoring? Because by that time she had realized which questions she has to spend time in and which questions she has to leave. And once you get that, you are successful. Not every short pitch ball, you even ask an engineer for that matter. She said again that she's not from an engineering background, so maths was. But what does an engineer know? An engineer knows that there are a couple of questions always in the paper which I cannot do. They start with that confidence. I am not here to prove that I am an engineer. I have to leave some question, and I'll not have any emotional attachment, and I'll come out of this. Right. So, Vidyotima, what I started off with, which newspapers did you read? We did not tell us that.
Yes. So I started off with the Times of India. Then eventually, I think my teacher suggested that you should also try the Hindu. I mean, of course, it is a splendid newspaper, I would say. Material is really good. So I got that too. So both were coming. Then after some time, I realized that my knowledge regarding the economics is a bit weak. So then I got the Economic Times also. So of course, you cannot cover all the papers. Now, what eventually, for a month, it will be very difficult for even to read even one paper. But eventually what happens, you realize which news to avoid and which to read, which would be helpful in the future. So that is what I did. So that is how I used to go through like all the papers quickly and, read the important part. So those were the papers I usually referred to.
Again, for the audience, I like to point out a very, very big strength. This is that she's not afraid, or the keenness which she has. She's not afraid. Rather, she's saying that whatever she was not comfortable with, she wanted to venture into and understand that. That's the attitude of a winner. that I know we all know what we are not good at, right? So this is the time, there's 1 year with you, right? Try and venture into what you're not comfortable with. I'll now tell you something which maybe I've never discussed it with students. Maybe this thing never came up over the last so many years. Is that, Vidyotima, I was a economics honors and a post-graduation graduate in economics. Even then, economics used to be difficult for me. I started reading Economic Times at the age of 18. Okay, even then, when I was preparing for my MBA and CAT, it was difficult for me. Okay, but then came a day when I was teaching economics, because my first semester had economics in MBA. I was teaching economics to the whole class. That's how it happens, right?
That
You have to keep on doing it. But I was not good at it. I was right. I would till today say that I was not good at it, but I was just keen enough to venture into that field. But let's not look at me. Let's look at Vidyotima. Vidyotima, medical student, 11th and 12th, hospitality student, does not fear picking up an economics paper. And that's what I really like about this, what she's spoken so far. She does not fear. A person of economics used to fear it. Okay, so that's very good. That's very good. That's what we want from all our students. That's a learning for us. I'm also learning that if you're venturing, I'm sorry, I'm repeating, but if you're venturing into something which you're not comfortable with, your aptitude grows. It increases. That's what the whole thing is. Am I right? Sorry, but am I right? That's how you were ready to face that challenge. And that's what we really love about you.
Thank you. It's very important to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, I think
Yes.
it's the most crucial part, in fact.
So what? Yep. Were you also reading a lot of books when you were preparing for the paper?
Yes, I was reading. In fact, like the first, so we were provided with a list of books into which we can venture in case if we, are not already reading. So at that point, because I had just left my job, so I wasn't that much reading, even though I used to love to read. So I started that also in December itself when I started the preparation. So I think the first book I started on that at that time was You Can Win by Shiv Khera.
Yes,
So
yes.
yes, it was a very motivating and easy book to read. And I used to wake up at 5 o'clock. So early in the morning, if you're reading something so nice, like someone is telling you, okay, you can do this also, this also, this also. So it became such a habit that even now, right now, I'm reading Atomic Habits. And like that is also one of the, self-motivating or self-help books, how that genre is called. So yes, that habit has continued to stay with me and I continuously read throughout the preparation. I sometimes even venture into novels, but majorly stayed within this genre, I would say.
That's so like a Hitbullseye student, I'll tell you. I don't take offline classes anymore. I don't teach students anymore because I've been a banker then before becoming an entrepreneur. So that's so much like a Hitbullseye student. Every English faculty will ask you to read Hindu, right? They will want you to move to Hindu. And second, You Can Win, I think, comes in the first 4 or 5 books which they suggest to read. Yes, that's so much like a Hitbullseye student. So you were not good you feel you were not good in quant. So did you do something extra for quant? Did you refer to the online material or did you refer to the course material which was provided? What did you do? Let's
So,
say, did you finally come to the point that I'm good at numbers, I'm not good at geometry, I may be good at algebra? How was it?
right. So, good question, sir.
No, so
So,
I
yes,
want to, and what I want to address for the students here is that it's not that all the students are weak in all the sections.
of
That's
course.
when we start preparing and we feel that we're not good in, let's take, the complete of quant. But
Mhm.
is that so that end में भी ऐसे होता है not complete of quant कि ऐसा हो जाता है कि number system में अच्छा नहीं हूँ मैं, I am good in geometry? Does it end up like that? What was your experience?
Yes, it does actually. So, how I started was in the beginning, I just focused on what was being taught on classes, in the classes, in fact. So, I used to, as I earlier mentioned, that I used to watch the recorded lectures. I had made vigorous notes. Now, these were basic questions, of course, like the basic part that they wanted to clear first. So, I thought, why not start from getting really nailing that part down? So, I did that, saw the lecture at least thrice. Then after that, I was a bit more confident, so I moved towards the I would say the sectional papers that were there on the website of Hitbullseye. After that, the mocks were I was giving continuously on the side. And along with that, so there was also offline books were also available. That I somewhere started in the mid of my preparation with those, because I was a bit scared of them again. As I said, that was a mistake, I believe, on my part. I should have started a bit earlier. That could have been improved, of course. And by the end, I believe, yes, I was definitely much better in certain sections. Like, for example, permutation, combination was something I knew that I had only touched the basics. So I couldn't really go into the complexities. So I kind of avoided that. Number system I was good at, and geometry I completely avoided because that was somehow I just not was able to understand it. So by snap, I would say I had reached that level, the last level that you said. By snap, it was there. That consciousness was there within the subject.
Yes, yes, yes. What about English? So, you said now I'm focusing on the other side. You said you were good in verbal section. So were you good in all kinds of reading comprehensions, or there were certain things which you used to avoid?
Right. So in this, like, so proper, I would say comprehension, like practicing proper comprehension essays, I started doing that a bit later on, maybe around February. Before that, I was more focused on reading, on making sure that I am focused enough for enough period of time, because it's very necessary, I believe. A lot of time what happens is, like you said, that, that Mirinda incident that happened with you. So a lot of things, like tiny things like that can happen, and you can lose your focus. Then all of a sudden it's like, what did I read?
Hmm.
What was there? What was the last point I was at? So that really happens. So to avoid that, to practice that sort of focus. So that was very necessary for me, I believe. Of course, even though I was good at verbal, I realized that still it did not ensure that I will perform well in verbal until unless I had a strategy in place, and until unless I knew how exactly to answer certain questions, even in the miscellaneous questions. It's very important to have this particular, I believe, again I'll use the word strategy, because for parajumbles also, I believe it was like, see, those are very confusing in cat, because there are no options, you just have to write. And I think some my friend only did some permutation combination on those and told me these many options are possible, varieties are possible in that. So we came up with this strategy that what we'll do is we'll try to logic it out. If you're using one specific sequence, what's the logic behind it? If there is a particular logic that we can point out to, that why we are doing this and why we are not doing it the other way, then we'll go with that. So those kind of strategies, they came along with practice, of course, and with giving a lot of tests, as many tests as you can. I can't put enough stress on that part, of course.
So yes, I'll also like to reiterate here that please understand, tests are a part of your preparation. Test is not something when you're taking mock cats or taking any sectional tests. It's not, students should get it right, that it's not that you're going to evaluate your level of preparation. No, that's not the way. Mock cats and sectional test over so many years of teaching and bringing up students, educating them, is that they are a part of your preparation. So if you skip, you've left that experience of being in that environment completely. So don't do that. At the end of the day, there'll be some questions which you would not have heard about, and they'll still come in the paper. But with that, when I'm saying that, I like to ask Vidyotma, were there some questions which were there directly from the material? How was it? Or was it completely a new paper? I'm saying that, were there questions from the quant section wherein the values were changed, but you still had those questions? How was it? Or it was completely different paper? What's your take on it?
So in Snap, there was actually, I
Hmm.
believe, two questions that came directly, like same, just the values were different, even like, tiniest bit different, but it was same question. And unfortunately, I was not able to attempt that. So that I really missed out on. In CAT, I did might have been there because, I had this such mental block regarding maths, regarding quants, that somehow I used to read the question and it used to be like, I am reading the question, but I can't understand the question at all, like how to go about it. So that, like, it was, I believe I reached one certain level in maths, and the level that was required for CAT was a bit more superior than that level. There was
Yes.
this particular gap in between the preparation.
So again, another thing that I like to highlight for students here is that in the material you'll find easy, medium, and difficult questions, and there'll be certain questions which are above the level of CAT as well. while we understand that these questions will not be asked in the CAT paper, but why are we putting them across in the material and putting it forward for you is that how should I put it? That if you've practiced on a bad pitch, batting on a bad pitch, you will go to the paper and you'll be easily able to do the paper. So doing those difficult questions is very important. But then when what Vidyotma said, I really like to ask another question. Vidyotma, why don't you tell us about some of your bad days? Did you actually have those bad days during your preparation, and what were those bad days and how did you overcome that? Were you still calm at that time and finally you were calm in the paper, or was it different in the paper? Please tell us something about what went wrong. Yes.
Right. So, in fact, what happened with me, what also happens with my cousins a lot of times, when you're preparing for something, right? So, and especially when you're not working, you are at home all the time, and all you have to do is prepare, and you are the only person who are supervising yourself. There's no one on your head who can be there all the time and tell you, no, you have to study or you have to stay focused. So that focus doesn't stay there all the time. I still remember I used to binge watch Netflix at times, sometimes for days, not hours, days. And sometimes what happens when you force yourself too much to study, just lose that continuum, that focus or that thing, that progression that was there, that smooth flow that was there. Sometimes you just have to let yourself be that it's okay, it's fine. Everyone has bad days, everyone gets stressed sometimes, and there are different things for different people of how they cope up with their stress. For me, it was a lot of times just watching Netflix for long period of time, or just going out and just some partying or something. It differs for different people, but you have to at times. That is also a part of the another
Yes.
face of the coin, in fact.
Yeah, perfect. So, while we talk, rather everywhere they'll talk about an ideal environment, it's actually life is not an ideal environment.
Of course.
There are distractions, there are ups and downs, and how do you recover is something which is very important. Rather,
Absolutely.
we always tell, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Bache, that you need to correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Because you are the one who's just taken the paper, they want to leave. I am the one who's now an oldie, okay? So rules change. Okay, so you know the rules. You correct me, please. And what I'm trying to say is that while we're talking of what all you can do, but then even if you do 80% of what we're talking about, what the student hearing is talking is hearing us is what we're trying to say is that we've talked about an ideal environment, but even if you're 80% right or 75% right there, you'll be able to crack the paper. Am I right there?
Of course. So
And
it's like, yes, it's like consistency is very important. Of course, some days you might be exemplary, you're very motivated, you might end up studying for, let's say, 8 hours. And other days you might not study at all. But that's okay. But it can't always be like that. There has to be a consistency throughout your preparation, something that you're following a routine, as I earlier mentioned. That is very important to ensure that particular amount of hours are put in eventually. It all, when it all comes together, so there you have that amount, you have those number of hours in your preparation. So yes, of course, if you follow that and 75%, 80% of what we just discussed, of course it will, results will be positive.
And what's your take on that? That's another stress cause. This also causes stress. What I'm going to talk about, just throw some light there. That when we look from the previous day, maybe after 15 days, 20 days, we feel that our aptitude has not increased. But then subsequently, over time, when we've taken our papers and we realize that the amount of work that effort that we put in, and our aptitude has really increased. Does it happen like that,
Of
or it's not?
Definitely, I would say it does. When I started, I answered 8 into 6 wrong. I am not kidding. That was the level. And eventually, after a couple of months, I could recite tables till 20. I could do so complicated calculations. I was doing the level of maths I never imagined myself to be doing, to be very honest. So, of course, aptitude increases in those ways. And the way if you're preparing right, the way your mentors are guiding you, the way your teachers guide you in the centers itself, you follow some part of even that, you are good to go. You're on the right road.
Yep. So remember, and I've seen students interact with thousands and thousands of them, I would say that some of them feel so stressed that aptitude increase नहीं हो रहा. पर बच्चे आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा जब aptitude increase हो जाएगा. This preparation, if done right, is going to leave some good habits with you, right? Being regular with newspapers, reading books, and when I look back my journey after MBA, I would say that yes, these couple of things really changed my life. And if someone feels why quant is being asked in the paper, it's all about problem solving in our daily lives. If we have that approach to solve a particular problem, we'll be able to do it. What is reading comprehension? We come across multiple, rather hundreds of pages. If you're a successful post-year MBA, you come across thousands of pages which you have to read and summarize, right? Thousands of Excel sheets which you have to read and summarize. So, in my last assignment, I was leading a large team and I used to look at Excel's performances of all the complete team. And I just had to be ready in like 15, 20 minutes. So this is what, Vidyotima, once we talk to her, after she's in her corporate, after she's working in a corporate, she's also going to come back and say that to us. Right, Vidyotima? So that's a learning for you as well, bache.
Of course.
And yeah, so what are we missing on? Something you feel we've not covered? Otherwise, we'll take up the questions we've answered. Lots of accolades coming your way. People are feeling proud of you. I feel proud. What you've done, what you've achieved is something to be proud of. Coming from, I would somewhere feel, though I have a question now and I missed asking that question, though somewhere I feel you moved from medical to hospitality to MBA, it was already inbuilt that you wanted to approach new things in life, and that's what helped you in the paper as well. But bache, if I'm not mistaken, you left your job. Yes. And I like to cover this, you to answer this. And hence you were only preparing. So was that not stressful that I don't have my job, I'm not working, I'll be at a disadvantage in the interview? What was were you stressed before the interview? And obviously after the result, nothing mattered. Yes. So did it stress you out at that time?
So actually, the thing was that my leaving the job was not as intentional, I would say, because what happened was 2020 was the year of COVID.
Yes.
So the worst affected industry was hospitality itself, hotels. So now what our hotel did was that they sent the managers to maybe go for a limited time period of leave and come back later on so that they do not have to do layoffs. So which we of course appreciated, and we ourselves, we said, okay, we are good to go. That is fine. We'll take that up. So however, like eventually kind of when I came back to Chandigarh, so they wanted me to kind of come back to Pune itself, but after a very long period of time. So during that period of time, I kind of realized that now was the time to take the step. If I really wanted to change, if I really wanted to prepare, a new batch was also starting, and I just made the jump. So that is how that went. And of course, during interviews, as you said, gap year is always, of course, there as a question. If there is a gap year, the college or anyone, the interviewer will definitely ask you about that. What my mentors told me was that you need to have a legit reason. What did you do in that year? If you can explain that, that, okay, fine, this, then it's okay. It will be manageable. It's something that it happens to people. People do intentionally sometimes take, sometimes they're like, okay, I know I can't prepare with job and both these things together. So that is what my strategy was basically in an interview. So I did explain, of course, why and what the conditions were when I left. And then I also told there was a reason I did not join back. It wasn't because I couldn't multitask, but it was because my job required me to put in almost 14 to 16 hours a day. I kid you not. That is how hospitality is. It's okay. It's just a norm. But that amount of time, if I put in the job, I would not have been able to prepare. That is something which I very calmly explained to the interview as well. And they did understand that.
That's a very positive approach, and that's so Hitbullseye student, because, and I'll tell you why am I putting emphasis here on this particular area is because a person needs to be proud of what he's or she is doing currently, right? Otherwise, student who's studying will always say that I wish I was working, had some years of work experience, then I'll do my MBA. A student, a person who's working would say that, अरे मैं उसी समय कर लेता, बहुत अच्छा होता. Right? Someone who's dropped would have said these two categories are better. What am I doing? But remember, you have to feel proud, and that's what she is proud of herself. Maybe that confidence also comes from her parents. They've been pushing her, they've been supporting her. Is that whatever you are doing, you're studying, you're in final year of a graduation, that's okay. Final or pre-final year of a graduation, that's okay. If you're working, that's okay. If you'd have a gap year, that's also okay. Nothing to hide behind it. Okay, and accepted that it's a part of your resume. You will be asked a question and you have to answer it, right? Maybe 10 questions which are asked in the interview, 9, if you're not confident in the 10th one, get 9 right there, answer the 9. But there's nothing to feel bad about the 10th one, which she did not, right? She got into a good college, she's not feeling bad about it. That's very good. That's such a Hitbullseye student. But obviously we can also shape up students who think good about themselves. Yes, last 2 minutes, we have to end the session. We did not even realize that the time has run out, and now when I see it's already not a couple of minutes left. Anything which you feel you missed, anything, just take 30 seconds, tell us anything you feel you want our students who are preparing to really do, which you could not do or you did do, that they should focus on, so that they have a smooth sailing. There's nothing called a smooth sailing, but they still have a relatively smooth sailing. Yes.
Right. So I believe in the last 2 minutes, I'd just like to advise that one is, don't regret your decisions. If you have already done something, if you've already chosen something, just go ahead with it. And secondly, try to avoid your comfort zone as much as possible. The growth happens outside of your comfort zone. The longer you stay there, the longer you're missing out on the opportunities. And if you're not scoring that well in your mocks, don't feel bad, because the highest I ever scored in my mocks was somewhere in 60s. I am not kidding. I did not see a 90 all throughout my mocks in any particular section at all. Still, the results that was there during the exam, the final results, that was in fact shocking to me too. So don't worry if you're not scoring that much. Just go ahead with your preparation with a positive mindset. That's all.
Oh, we love the positivity. We wish you all the very best. It's never going to be a smooth sailing in life. We like to add here from Hitbullseye team. We like to add, there's nothing so-called a smooth sailing, but how you overcome challenges which are thrown by life towards you is what matters in life. Corporate life will have its own challenges, but then if you have such a positive bent of mind and a calm mind, you're well read, you have certain habits of reading newspapers, keeping yourself up to date, that is what is going to count. And I feel really positive after this session. To meet such a positive person is a blessing, I would say. To meet such a partner, I'm repeating, to meet such a positive person is a blessing. Wonderful are those parents who are blessed with such a child. We wish you all the best, bache, and do really, really well. Rock. And as we always say, we never leave our students never leave us. We will be engaged with you in one way or the other. That destiny will decide. Yes,
Looking
that's
forward
the.
to it.
Anything you would like to before we end? Yes.
That's about it. Thank you so much for having me here, sir. It was a wonderful experience, in fact. And I hope that my experience could be useful to anyone out there, because there is innumerable data on how you should go about your preparation. And don't be too influenced by any particular thing, because every individual is different. So, go ahead, do that hit and trial method and figure something out for yourself.
And yes, reach out for support. We are there to support you. We're there to support everyone. Yes. Right. Thank you so much. It was great having you. We wish you and all our students all the very best. And we love to hear good news about our students. And I would like to add, students who are going to, thousands of those students are going to listen to our session. Some of you are sitting there who will be there with us next year on this platform. You maybe don't realize it today, but just keep working. Next year you'll have next year, you're going to be there with us on this platform. Thank you, Vidyotima. Thank you, Hitbullseye team, for the technical support.